So I have been, well, for one, I've tried recording this like 8 times, and I'm never happy with it. But I've been trying to assess, like everyone else, what I think is going to happen, what general broad direction Ukraine is headed in, and connected to that, the world. And in my opinion, I disagree with Gonzalo quite a bit. I don't think Western leaders will just back down and say, oh, well, darn it, we lost. And maybe his opinion has shifted. Maybe I even slightly misinterpreted what he was saying or how he was saying it. But I really think, I suspect things will escalate more. And my reasoning behind this is the convergence of two incentive structures. For one, I would consider what I call what I now, as of today, I've started calling the Top Hat Monocle Club. Basically, what others would call the cabal running the world, and they have a vision and they're trying to push this way and that way. And it's kind of the reason why very often Western leaders, they do things and you think that isn't good for your country. That isn't even good for the West. Why are you doing this? Well, and if you try to make sense of it, it starts to make sense if you look at it as kind of a lower level, under the surface, there's some motivation in the background. And I believe there is, while not necessarily an organized group of people, I believe there is some collection group of people who has a motivation for where they want to take the world, how they want to see the world, who should be in charge, how economies should work. And I don't think they're necessarily evil people or good people. I think the results of what they're trying to do very often is really bad, mainly because I think they're not as smart as I suspect they think they are. But what concerns me with respect to that group is there's obviously a group of people who have a vision for where they want to take the world. What I suspect is that they don't want to go back in their plans. And by that I mean they've been building and building and building and building and building, and they've gained more ground and more ground and more ground and so on and so forth. And now they're at a point where they said, okay, we're trying to climb up this mountain. It's a bit of a ways up there. I can see the top though. I can see the top of the mountain. However, I'm out of water. I'm out of food. My toes are freezing. Clearly, I am not at my best. Clearly, I'm reaching my limit. But we're so close. And you know, if I just give up and head back down the mountain, then, you know, I'm going to have to rest, recuperate. Hell, maybe I'll even lose one of my toes. Maybe it's frozen off and I won't be able to make this trek again. And even if I can, it's going to be years before I can get the financial backing for another expedition. It's going to be years before I can train myself back up to be in peak physical condition to have a better chance at reaching the top of this mountain. And so I think that's the mountain climbing analogy. I think there's a group of people who think, look, you know, we've pretty much shot to shit all of our credibility. Most, I think, of the world population is starting to look at what we're trying to do and say, the hell are you doing? What? No, look, I know these are the reasons you're giving. Yes, humanitarian concerns, yeah, well, okay, I just don't believe you. And more of the world is starting to wake up to that. Thankfully, I'm happy to see that, but also that means that this group of people is reaching the end of their rope in my assessment of the world. And so I think there's a high chance that, hell, you know, some of these people are probably 60, 70, even 50, 40 years old. If it takes another 20, 30, 40 years to get to another, what I assume they see as an opportunity like this one, then fuck it, go for broke. push, let's go for it. Let's do it. Pardon my language. And you know what? If we fail, it'll still take another 30, 40 years. And, so what if some more people die for it? That's not important. What's important is our vision. And so that incentive structure of screw it, keep going. We're not going to get another chance like this in our lifetime, so push. That incentive structure converges with the parasitic sociopath incentive structure. And that is that normally, I would hope, that this is the class that would push back on that and say, look, I know this is what you want. I know this is your vision. It's very pretty. It's very pretty. I also want a world with it's just wonderful and everyone's friends, and imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. That's turning into a comedy bit, but normally that would be the group to say, look, I know this is what you want. It's a great idea. Just maybe not yet. Just maybe this isn't the best time, because like people are gonna starve. They're gonna like starve to death. And like these other people, all their bills are gonna go up, and they're the ones who elect me. And so I like being elected. So no. I'm sorry, but no. But the reality of the situation for that group of people is that, if they don't get reelected, they'll go work for a think tank. They'll go work for a Ukrainian oil company, I assume, or some oil company around the world. They'll get book deals. They'll get paid a few $100,000 to talk at some random event that nobody actually pays attention to the talk. But they'll have a cushy gig. So if they piss off the plebs, if they piss off the people who elect them, they get a nice paying job at a think tank, and they can come back 10 years from now. Hell, Toobin style, Jeffrey Toobin. Who else could yank it on a virtual call with your company? Who could jerk off on a virtual call? And then a few years later, it's like, who hasn't? Who hasn't? It's no big deal. All your coworkers saw your penis, but it's fine because you didn't piss off the wrong people. But if they do piss off the wrong people, they become persona non grata. They become exiled from the parties in Brussels. They become excised from not the body politic in the sense of like their nation's politics, the body politic of what they consider the people they actually hold their allegiance to. Like I said, they want to be one of the cool kids. They're not, but they'll keep pushing, and they'll keep, frankly, whoring themselves out so that they can continue to go to the parties in Brussels, which is, I just have to say, that's essentially the point I'm trying to make. But I've partied with a collection of Ukrainians and Russians, and I firmly believe that the parties in Moscow would be way more fun than the parties in Brussels. Slavs, they know how to party. They know how to party. They damn sure do. They wrecked me a bit, but yeah. So that's basically it. What should happen is that if there are any, undercurrent forces trying to push things in a negative direction or in an escalatory direction that doesn't make sense for the nations involved, what should happen is that those nations' representatives have a deeper allegiance to their nation and to their people than those undercurrent forces. But the incentive structures of both are such that I don't see the top hat monocle club, I don't see the cool kids in this equation deciding, it's fine, we'll just go home, come back in 30 years once we've set things up a little better. And I also don't see the world leaders of the West having any reason, because I do believe they are essentially parasites and sociopaths. Obviously not all, and even individually, not all of them is some worthless parasite. I'm sure some of them have a conscience, some good in their soul, but they don't seem to be acting it out, and it doesn't seem to be enough for them to be willing to push back on this collective elite social enforcement that keeps them all lockstep, that comes out with, oh, well, this country has decided to just quietly buy this oil from Russia, and then there's a big media announcement saying, no, 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 full on embargo, full on EU, we're not buying anything from Russia. So I think there are people in the background trying to make logical decisions. I think there are forces at work that by the time their power is sapped, by the time they're weak enough to stop having a significant effect on the world, they will have already used what power they had to push us in a very unfortunate direction. I pray that that is not the case. Definitely every day, usually multiple times every day. And I think, to try to be a little optimistic again, I think ultimately the world and most people will be okay. But as far as whether I think things will, are we facing a denouement or an escalation with respect to Ukraine? Based on these incentive structures and the convergence of those two incentive structures, one that wants to push things forward, one that has no incentive for keeping them from pushing things forward, I really think we're in for an escalation. I think. Now, I say this, and the second I put this out into the world, tomorrow, the Cool Kids Club, the Top Hat and the Monocles could decide, yeah, I'm bored. Let's just give it up, and we'll go have some coke-fueled parties and smoke some Parmesan cheese or something. But I'll be very surprised if that's the case. I hope it is. I hope that I can post a video eating my words that recorded in this one, but we'll see what happens. I've said it before, but I try to record these to partially, if anybody can get any value out of it, I'm really happy to hear that. I'm happy to see any comments or responses. I appreciate anyone watching these, taking the time to watch these, and responding with any critique or thoughts on what I'm saying. But also this is partially just to try to improve how I put my thoughts into words. I find generally when I record things, and especially listen back to them, it's my own critique. So this is partially selfish, but I hope someone can get something out of it and maybe have a perspective that maybe they haven't seen before or heard before. So that's it for today, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and Z's and Zers, I suppose.